How shameless to be living off Rose. None of the family members sitting there laughed at the comment, but Rose's fiancé, Sean, chuckled as if he couldn't hold it in. Is it ever acceptable for someone you're meeting for the first time to insult your income, your job, or even your very character? And all based on assumptions they've conjured up in their mind, as if they were facts. I was stunned, speechless, even. I never imagined someone as important as Rose's fiancé could say something so cruel. Instinctively, I glanced at Rose. Her face was filled with an anger I had never seen before. Next to Sean, a woman laughed along with him. But after a few seconds, Rose composed herself, took a deep breath, and spoke. "Excuse me. Amber is way richer than you." The truth, one Sean had never anticipated, shattered his expression as it gradually crumbled. "My name is Amber. I'm 40 years old and single. I live in my parents' home with Dad and Mom, the three of us together. When I was in college, I shared an apartment with friends, but after graduation, I moved back to my parents' home and have been living here ever since. My friends often told me it's important to live on your own for the experience, but I found I missed the warmth of having people around at home. And here I am, at this age. Currently, I share my artwork on social media while selling my paintings through an online store. I rent a small studio space to create and share my work. But for living, nothing beats the comfort of my parents' home." Rose is a responsible, family-oriented person. After graduating from college, she got a job at a major corporation and moved to New York to live on her own. Yet, she never grew distant from the family. She always made time to come home and reassure our parents. When I declared my ambition to make a living as an artist, my parents were worried and hesitant to agree. It was Rose who convinced them. "It's your life, so she should do what makes her happy. And if it doesn't work out, I'll support her until she finds a job. If it weren't for her, I might have given up on becoming an artist." Rose is beautiful, responsible, and family-centered. I adore her. Despite living in New York, Rose had never talked to us about a boyfriend. She would always share stories about her work, amazing restaurants, and travel experiences, topics that entertained us and gave us a glimpse into her life. But about 15 years after moving out, Rose suddenly said, "I have something to tell you. Actually, I've been dating someone for about 2 years, and we're considering marriage. I'd like to introduce him to you soon." Our parents, who had hoped for Rose's marriage but never pressured her, lit up with joy. "I can't wait to see what kind of person she has chosen." The plans progressed smoothly, and a family meeting was scheduled 6 months later. When Mom told me the date was set, I felt a wave of nerves wash over me. For over 15 years, as an artist, I had been living a reclusive life in my parents' home, with little opportunity to engage in meaningful conversations with others. I didn't want the man Rose was considering marrying to think she had a weird sister. Determined to make a good impression, I decided to work on my appearance and started some light exercise and skincare routines. One day, Rose called me. "I have a favor to ask," she said. "What is it?" "You don't ask for favors often," I replied, intrigued. According to Rose, her fiancé, Sean felt nervous and uneasy about the upcoming family meeting, especially since he hadn't even exchanged greetings with me before. He suggested meeting me beforehand to get accustomed to the idea. If I were in his position, I might have made the same request. Understanding his perspective, I gladly agreed. Since he wasn't meeting my parents, it would mean inviting him to my studio. While I considered meeting at a stylish cafe, I worried I might be too nervous there to make a good impression. So I decided to welcome Rose and Sean into my studio. In preparation, I cleaned the space as much as I could, scrubbing away oil paint stains from the floor. I also paused painting for a few days to eliminate any lingering odors. While creating art is an essential part of my daily life, this was an extraordinary occasion. I wanted to do my best to make Rose's beloved fiancé feel comfortable. When Sean arrived with Rose, I saw a man who appeared clean, polished, and slightly younger than his age. He was tall, well-dressed, and exuded the confidence of someone capable and professional. "Thank you for having us today. I appreciate you taking time out of your weekend," Sean said politely. "It's no trouble at all. I'm happy to finally meet Rose's boyfriend. I didn't expect to have the chance to chat before the family meeting. I'm Amber, Rose's younger sister." "It's nice to meet you," I replied. Honestly, the thought of the family meeting made me nervous, so I talked to Rose about meeting you first. "Thanks for agreeing to this," Sean explained. With brief pleasantries exchanged at the door, they entered my studio. "What? You live in this tiny place? At 40 years old?" Sean muttered almost immediately upon stepping inside. The comment stung, but I understood his surprise. At my age, living in a space like this would certainly be unusual. "She doesn't live here," Rose interjected firmly. "She's an artist, and this is her studio where she works on her pieces." "That's right. Sorry to surprise you. This place is perfect as a studio. It has great natural light and a nice view." "So you're an artist, I see," Sean said, nodding as though something had clicked in his mind. But his expression remained sharp, and I worried I had made a poor impression. However, Sean's demeanor shifted unexpectedly, brightening as he started chatting and sharing a meal with us. I found myself forgetting my initial unease and began looking forward to the family meeting. The day of the family meeting arrived. It was set to take place at a restaurant in New York that Rose had reserved in advance. Sean's father had passed away, so the only family member joining from his side was his mother, Ellie. Our family arrived slightly later than Sean's, and Ellie greeted us with elegance and poise. She was an older woman, yet carried herself with grace and refinement. "Thank you for traveling all the way to New York today. Since my husband has passed, it's just me representing our family. I'm pleased to meet you all," Ellie said with a gentle smile. "Thank you for choosing such a lovely restaurant. We've been looking forward to today. It's a pleasure to meet you." After exchanging pleasantries, we all took our seats. The dishes were exquisite, and I felt so nervous I could barely take a bite. "I'd love to hear more about Sean and Rose." "Yes, tell us what you like about each other," my mom added enthusiastically, sparking lively conversation between the mothers. "We both work at the same company," Sean began with a smile. "I was originally assigned to a department that often required overseas travel, so I didn't have much time for relationships. But when I settled into the main office, that's when I met Rose," he explained. "I was curious about what kind of work kept him overseas, so I struck up a conversation," Rose added. "Rose is incredibly dedicated to her job. I even heard from her supervisor that the company's significant growth in revenue was largely thanks to her. I was really drawn to her because of that. I had more or less given up on things like romance and marriage. But Sean is someone I respect deeply, both as a person and as a colleague." He caught my attention. Hearing about their wonderful relationship brought a smile to my face. But the warm atmosphere shattered in an instant. "Rose is such an incredible person, and I'm convinced there's no one else I'd want to marry. But there's one thing I just can't accept," Sean said, his tone suddenly sharp. "What? What do you mean?" Rose asked, visibly confused. "Amber, you've made it to 40 without holding down a proper job. How do you justify that? He demanded, his eyes narrowing as he turned to glare at me. The pleasant mood from moments before was entirely gone, replaced by a suffocating tension. I stammered, unable to find words. When I met Amber before, I thought it would be nice to greet her ahead of today, but I didn't expect her situation to be this bad. Hey, what do you think you're saying to my sister? Rose snapped. Calm down, Rose. She lives in that tiny, dirty room. And doesn't she take $2,000 from you every month? At Sean's accusation, Rose went quiet for a moment, clearly trying to process what she had just heard. How do you even know about that? Did you go through my financial records without asking? Rose asked, her voice filled with disbelief. I'm going to be your husband, Sean replied matter-of-factly. It's only natural to do a background check. Isn't that what anyone would do? Apparently, Sean had gone through Rose's personal belongings, including her bank account statements. Worried about misunderstandings, I tried to explain myself. I may not work as a salaried employee, but I'm not unemployed. I don't want you to think poorly of Rose because of me. But my words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Shut up. You're just a shameless freeloader living off her. Sean spat, his voice dripping with disdain. He looked at me with a scornful gaze that made me involuntarily flinch. Enough. When we visited her studio, you didn't say anything like this. I wasn't sure back then, but now I'm waking you up to reality. Cut ties with her already. You say she's your precious sister, but all she's doing is draining money from you. Mom, clearly distraught, looked like she might cry at any moment. Dad was trembling with anger, his face flushed red. I could do nothing but stare at the table, my head hung low, unable to speak. The room was frozen in silence when suddenly the door opened and a young woman walked in. Oh, finally, Sonny's here, Sean said, his tone shifting dramatically. Wait a second. Who is this? Rose demanded, her voice rising in shock. Sean, you didn't respond to any of my messages. And I was so worried. The woman called Sonny suddenly leapt toward Sean the moment she entered the room. Everyone present was left stunned, unable to process what was unfolding before them. Sean, with a smug expression, broke the silence. Rose, so sorry, but I finally decided. I'm going to marry Sonny instead. I thought you'd have a decent amount of savings, but what are you talking about? Rose asked, her voice trembling in disbelief. How can you not be embarrassed, supporting a sister like that? I'd rather be with someone younger. Sonny, unlike you, listens to everything I say without question. Standing next to Sean, Sonny looked down at us with a triumphant smile. Of course I do. I've already cut ties with my parents because Sean asked me to. And I've been saving up so we can get married, Sonny said proudly. Exactly. That's why we're leaving now. I asked Sonny to wait so we could finalize things during this family meeting. Rose, if you're going to keep defending Amber, then I don't need you anymore. Sean, seemingly satisfied after saying his piece, stood up and started to leave with Sonny. Wait a moment. I couldn't let things end like this. I called out to stop Sean and Sonny. Was it fair for someone I'd just met to judge my life, my income, and even my character so harshly, and based entirely on assumptions? I hadn't expected Rose's fiancé to say such cruel things. And at first, I was too shocked to respond. When I glanced at Rose, I saw an expression of fury I had never witnessed before. Sonny, meanwhile, was still grinning beside Sean. After a few tense moments, Rose seemed to gather herself, took a deep breath, and said with icy calm, Amber is far wealthier than you. Sean burst out laughing. Come on, stop with the jokes. No way is that true. You just want me to come back, don't you? But that lie isn't going to fly. He pointed at me, his gaze filled with condescension. That look stung deeply. Even though I knew his accusations were unfounded, I couldn't help but feel a pang of self-doubt. But I somehow managed to muster a trembling voice to reply. I'm not sure how my income compares to yours, but there seems to be a misunderstanding about my work. I'm a painter. Oh, please. Probably one of those starving, self-proclaimed artists. Huh, there are tons of people like that. And that old, dirty studio I saw last time. Come on. Maybe my studio is old and messy, I admitted, trying to stay composed. Then prove it. Say your name. If you're a well-known artist, someone here will recognize it, right? Sean snapped, cutting me off before I could explain further. I didn't use my real name publicly. I had built my career anonymously, sharing my work online through social media. Revealing my name here would undermine everything I'd worked for. But if staying silent meant ruining Rose's chance at happiness, I couldn't let that happen. I've been working under the name Ember Willow, I finally said, my voice quiet but steady. The room went completely still. It feels strange to say this myself, but Ember Willow is a renowned artist with over 10 million followers on social media. I've received commissions not only from within the United States, but also internationally. Famous influencers and artists proudly display my work in their homes. In fact, many fans still covet my very first painting, but that piece belongs to Rose, who was my first supporter. She carefully framed it and has it displayed in her room. I often visit to see it myself. You've got to be kidding. Ember Willow. As in the world-famous artist, Ember Willow. I realized I needed to prove my identity, and quickly pulled out a notebook, filled with sketches and notes from my past projects. No way. So the Ember Willow piece hanging in Rose's room, that was real. Yes, I bought it because I was her very first fan. Rose replied with a proud smile. I never wanted any money for it. I added, trying to clarify. But since I live at our parents' home and help care for them, Rose insisted on sending me some money every month to contribute. Amber refused to take my money outright. So I told her I was just paying to admire her work every day. Really? Then I should change my plan, he murmured. Sean's expression shifted. Sean, you're not seriously believing her, are you? You're just falling for her lies because you're a candidate for CEO, and she's desperate to tie you down. No, that's not it. I've been a fan of Ember Willow myself. I just assumed the piece in Rose's room was a replica or something. Sean snapped, suddenly defensive. As Sean's panic grew, his earlier confidence completely crumbled. Rose, watching him carefully, decided to confront him directly. Sean, are you seriously planning to marry Sunny? She seems to know quite a lot about your status as the next CEO. You must have shared plenty of details with her. This was the first I'd heard about Sean being a potential CEO, and I couldn't help but wonder if Rose was okay letting such a promising prospect go. Give me a moment to think. It's true that I might have gone too far with Ember earlier, but you've got to understand my concerns. I was worried about having an unemployed family member in my life. Having realized who I was, Sean seemed eager to change his tone and steer the conversation back toward marrying Rose. His behavior was beyond selfish. Then how do you explain openly admitting to cheating on me? At that moment, Rose laughed, as though something had clicked for her. Everyone in the room was slightly taken aback, but Rose's face turned serious as she faced Sunny. Sunny, I have some good news for you. I won't be marrying his man. You can have him all to yourself. Excuse me, that's incredibly condescending. But whatever. It's not like I needed your permission. I was going to marry him anyway. Sunny's smugness was short-lived. Rose's next words struck like a lightning bolt. That's fine, but you should know, Sean will never become CEO. Whatever grand stories he's told you, I doubt much of it is true. What? And how would you know that? You're just a regular employee at Sean's company. Don't act like you know everything. Sunny's mocking tone only made Rose's calm demeanor more striking. You're the one who doesn't understand. Sean betrayed me after proposing marriage. Do you really think he wouldn't betray you, too? Looking at Sean, it seemed he had completely lost the ability to speak. Rose's words were clearly not mistaken. Sunny, noticing Sean's expression, started to panic. Sean, what's going on? Explain yourself. You told me you were a candidate for CEO and had been a department head overseas for years. It was true. Even Rose had mentioned Sean's overseas work before. That's why I assumed he must have been highly competent. But judging from what Rose had just said, there was more to the story. Rose continued calmly. Let me lay everything out now that the engagement is off. It's true Sean worked in our company's overseas division. Sunny's face lit up with relief. See, I told you. She seemed to feel reassured by this confirmation. But Rose added sharply, he wasn't placed there as a department head. He was demoted after using company funds to fuel his obsession with overseas casinos. He was brought back to headquarters to keep a closer eye on him. What? I only found out about it a year into our relationship. But he seemed determined to change, and had worked hard enough to earn my respect again, which is why I eventually agreed to marry him. Sunny, now glaring at Sean, asked with a mix of anger and disbelief, so the CEO candidate thing was a lie too? Not entirely. The offer to become a CEO candidate was originally directed at me, not him. There was an awkward pause before she continued. But Sean managed to contribute significantly to the company's sales and repaid every cent of the embezzled funds. In fact, he helped turn a significant profit. So I advocated for him to be considered for the role of CEO as a way to give him a second chance. Wait, what? I wasn't told any of this. I thought it was because of my abilities. You really don't understand your position, do you? Who would trust a person who once misused company funds to be a CEO? I pleaded for you to have a chance to redeem yourself as my future husband. Sean, upon hearing this, sank further into despair. Had he truly believed everything was his own doing? If that was the case, his misunderstanding was beyond measure. So if you don't marry him, Sunny asked Rose, then Sean will never be more than just a regular employee. Exactly. That's why I said he will never become CEO. This is unbelievable. Don't fall for this nonsense, Sean. Call the CEO right now and clear this up. Rose, with an exasperated sigh, responded, fine, but once you hear the truth, you two need to leave this place immediately. She pulled out her smartphone and dialed the number, switching the call to speaker mode for everyone to hear. Sean froze, his panic now evident in his trembling form. His expression was so pathetic it was almost laughable. Judging from his reaction, it was clear Rose's words were entirely true. Hello, this is Rose. I hope I'm not disturbing you on your day off, but may I have a moment of your time? It's unusual for you to call on a weekend. What's going on? To be direct, Rose began, I'm calling to inform you that my engagement with Sean has been called off. I wanted to report this to you and apologize for any trouble caused in the process. The CEO paused for a moment, then responded with a chuckle. Sean, I didn't say anything because you were the one who chose him, but honestly, I think you've made the right decision. The CEO let out an audible sigh over the phone, his frustration clear even from a distance. Sean had already misused company funds once before, so we conducted a background check when his name came up as a candidate for CEO. Just earlier, we discovered he's been involved with multiple women, even while being engaged to you. It seemed his actions had not gone unnoticed by the company. You investigated him. I see. Multiple women, you say. One of those affairs is exactly what led me to call off our engagement. Given the nature of the CEO role, we had to ensure he was genuinely reformed. But Rose, your contributions to the company have been outstanding, and it's true that we were considering you as the next CEO. The sincerity in the CEO's voice reflected his respect and gratitude for Rose's efforts. Despite your dedication to supporting Sean, you didn't deserve this betrayal. If you decide to pursue legal action, we have evidence to back you up. Just let me know. The CEO's voice was gentle, and you could hear the desire to save Rose in his tone. Thank you. I believe a lawsuit is inevitable, so I'd greatly appreciate your cooperation in providing the evidence you uncovered during your investigation. Of course, and let me make it clear, Sean will be dismissed from the company. As for you, Rose, I want you to remain with us as a leading candidate for the CEO position. I understand this must be a difficult time, but the company fully supports you. Thank you very much. I'll see you at the office soon. When Rose ended the call, Sean and Sunny were left standing there, utterly speechless. Their faces betrayed the realization that they had lost everything. What did he just say? Multiple women. What is this, Sean? I only dated you because you said you were going to be the next CEO. Were you telling every woman the same thing? Sunny demanded. Sunny, it's not like that. The CEO has a habit of exaggerating. What am I supposed to believe now? You can't hold down a job or a relationship. What use could anyone have for you? Sunny spat. What? After everything I bought for you, this is how you talk to me? You only enjoyed that lifestyle because I worked hard for it. Pay me back for all the money I've spent on you. Sean shouted, his anger boiling over. Hearing Sean demand repayment from a younger woman was pathetic, to say the least. And just as Sunny said, Sean had never been able to make even one of his girlfriends happy. And now, even after being given a second chance by the company he had betrayed, he was betraying them again in a different way. Sunny, in fact, had never stayed with Sean for who he was. She had only been with him because he spent money to entertain her. Sean was seriously misunderstanding things. Watching all this unfold was painful. Sean, do you really think Sunny was ever genuinely in love with you? Rose asked calmly, looking at him with pity. Still in denial, Sean glanced at Rose with uncertainty. But Sunny always did whatever I asked. She cut ties with her family when I told her to, and she even said she wanted to have a baby with me. Oh, you have a child? Rose inquired, her tone tinged with mockery. Realizing his mistake, Sean hesitated before answering. Well, yes, I mean, we talked about it because you were never interested in the idea, Rose. Sunny burst out laughing, her derision clear as she looked down at Sean. Sean couldn't even begin to understand why Sunny was laughing so much. Are you seriously this stupid? Did you really think I wanted to marry you out of love? God, no. Then, everything you said was a lie. What about the baby? I even paid for all the medical expenses. Sean exclaimed, his voice tinged with desperation. Of course it was all fake, you idiot. I just wanted to milk you for every penny I could. That money, gone. I spent it all ages ago, Sunny said with a smug grin. It was clear now. Sean and Sunny had been deceiving each other. each trying to use the other for their own benefit. Sunny had likely fabricated the story about a child to extort money from Sean. The weight of losing everything, the facade of a successful career, the illusion of genuine relationships, hit Sean like a tidal wave. "You tricked me. This is marriage fraud. Do you even realize that?" Sunny continued with an exasperated expression. "Maybe you're right, but if you're not going to be the next CEO, I don't have any reason to stick around. You're useless to me now. I'm leaving." "Sunny, wait. I still have what it takes to become CEO," Sean pleaded, crawling on the floor after her apathetic sight. "You have nothing left, Sean. The family you could have cherished, the position you could have earned, the job you could have excelled in, it's all gone because of you." Both Sean and Sunny had strayed so far from basic human decency that they seemed utterly lost. As Sunny stormed out, she slapped Sean across the face, glaring at everyone in the room before leaving without another word. After she left, Sean shuffled over to Rose, starting his attempt at an apology. "Rose, listen, I know I've made mistakes. I didn't have any proper relationships before, so I thought I needed to gain more experience with different women before settling down." The audacity of his excuse sent a shiver through both Rose and me. Sean clearly intended to justify his infidelity before marriage. You know what they say, loving multiple people gives you emotional balance, right? I was just spreading my feelings around. Honestly, you should thank me for managing it all so well. "What?" Rose's voice was barely audible, her disbelief palpable. "But Rose, you're the one I truly love. Why else would I have arranged this family meeting? That's proof of my sincerity, isn't it?" Sean's self-serving attempt to frame himself as a victim only confirmed how little he had learned. "Stop acting like you're doing me some kind of favor," Rose shot back, her voice steady but firm. "I've been nothing but honest and committed to you. Even the CEO, despite his doubts, considered you for a leadership position because he saw potential in you. But after trampling on everyone's trust, you expect gratitude. Unbelievable." Unable to handle Rose's cutting truth, Sean lashed out again. "I've worked hard to make up for my mistakes. That's the bare minimum, Sean. You should have been working hard while taking responsibility for your actions." Rose countered sharply, and she was absolutely right. Despite being given chances to redeem himself, Sean had deluded himself into believing his survival was due solely to his own abilities, disregarding the goodwill of those around him. "Amber, you understand, don't you?" Sean turned to me with a sly grin, his tone shifting to manipulative. "If I marry Rose, I can use my international experience to help you sell your artwork to a global market. Imagine how rich you'll become. That's happiness, isn't it?" "Sean, please stop. I create art for people who need it, for those who tell me it brings them comfort. It's not about money," I said, my voice raised in frustration. I had had enough of his selfishness. "I don't care who buys my art, I care about why they buy it. And after how you've hurt Rose, you have no right to involve yourself in anything I create." My words must have struck a nerve because Sean's composure cracked. He began shouting again, his tone venomous. "Don't get cocky. You're just some social media famous nobody. In the real world, you're nothing but a socially inept loser who can't even get married." "That's enough." The voice came from Ellie, who had been silent until now. She stood and addressed Sean with a rare, stern authority. I later learned from Mom that Ellie had fainted briefly earlier, overwhelmed by the revelations of Sean's embezzlement and infidelity. But now she was resolute. "I've never had a husband, but I raised you to be someone I could be proud of. All I wanted was for you to be happy. And now, after finally hearing talk of marriage, This is what you bring to me. Enough is enough, Sean. Mom, wait, please. Sean stammered, panicking, as the weight of Ellie's words began to sink in. I'm cutting ties with you today. I can't believe you followed the same path as your father. But this is reality. Accept it and atone for your actions. Wait, Mom, don't leave me alone. You can't really cut ties with me, can you? Sean, still in shock from his mother's words, was interrupted by my dad, who entered the room and took control of the situation. Sean, enough. I won't let you marry Rose. You're the kind of person who hurts others and feels nothing. Stay away from Rose for the rest of your life. Don't ever show your face to her again. For the first time, Dad, who had remained silent until now, stood before Sean with an anger I had never seen before. I could see Dad's fists trembling, and it broke my heart. I knew he had been looking forward to this day, only to have it end in such a way. Please wait. I've realized my mistake. Today I've come to understand how important Rose is to me. At this point, Sean tried to claim he still cared for Rose. Rose sighed deeply at his words and turned her face away, unable to bear his pathetic attempt at redemption. Dad, hearing Sean's shameless words, grew even angrier. None of your excuses matter. Dad's voice raised, shaking with fury. Had I ever seen Dad so dependable and enraged before? Leave here immediately. Otherwise, I might just lose control and punch you. Dad had never been so furious, having witnessed his daughters being insulted. I had never heard him shout like that before. Seeing Dad like this, Sean began trembling, tears streaming down his face. Perhaps he couldn't believe things weren't going his way. For some reason, he acted as though he were the victim. It was pathetic how he kept making excuses despite knowing nothing could change now. Ellie, trying to maintain composure, apologized to all of us and made Sean apologize as well before dispersing the meeting. We stood there, frozen for a while, stunned by the storm of events that had just unfolded. This kind of disastrous family meeting felt like something out of a novel, something we never imagined would happen. Rose and Sean broke off their engagement, and Sean was required to pay a settlement fee. Thanks to a background check conducted by the CEO, several women who had been deceived by him came forward with their contact details. These women shared their information with each other and collectively demanded a settlement fee from Sean. Regarding my name as an artist mentioned during the family meeting, I made sure to get Sonny's agreement not to bring it up again. It was revealed that Sean had been obsessed with gambling in the past and, even after returning to America, continued to gamble excessively. He had accrued substantial debts. He had called me unemployed, yet he himself was buried in debt. Sean had targeted wealthy women, particularly those in high positions at companies, and manipulated them into paying off his gambling debts under false pretenses. The total debt was over $1 M, and he had convinced these women to sever ties with their families, using marriage as a tool to manipulate them. As a result, these women lost their homes and their families. Later, I learned from Ellie that Sean's father had also fallen into gambling and had tried to earn money by engaging with multiple women. This behavior led to the divorce right after Sean was born. The story that Sean's father had passed away was a lie. In reality, it was concealed because Sean feared revealing the truth would end his potential marriage. Sean, now drowning in debts and forced to pay multiple settlement fees to the women he deceived, had been fired from the company. He was facing a lawsuit for embezzling company funds to support his gambling habits. The settlement fees for the marriage fraud would not be the end of his problems. Eventually, Sean was charged with embezzlement and was sentenced to prison. Had he faced Rose, the company, and grown as a person, none of this would have happened. Of course, he was disowned by Ellie, and he would now walk a lonely path for the rest of his life. With his prison sentence, finding a job would be impossible, and he would be stuck paying the settlement fees with a meager income. A harsh life awaited him, that much was certain. After everything that happened, I couldn't help but feel as though my profession had been belittled, and my spirits were low. However, I also began to realize that, in a way, it was for the best that Rose was able to break up with Sean because of this incident. As the CEO had discussed with Rose, she was appointed as the next company president, being the first female president. She was receiving a lot of expectations. Rose was dedicated to creating a company that would be more comfortable for women to work in, focusing on reforms for maternity and paternity leave, and aiming to make menstrual leave more widely available. As a result, last year, the number of female applicants tripled compared to the previous year, and Rose was pleased to see that the company had gained more talented employees. She also mentioned that the company's revenue had increased, though Dad and Mom had been exhausted by everything that had happened. Watching her work so hard and move forward with determination, they too began to look ahead. After retiring, they had been staying at home, but recently, they started taking trips together as a couple. As for me, this incident made me realize I wanted to increase my interactions with others, so I decided to attend a cooking class. While I already knew how to cook, I started the classes with the desire for Dad and Mom to experience more types of food. It was there that I met a man in his 40s, and we are now dating. He is patient with me, understanding my difficulty with communication, and through the cooking classes, we have gradually grown closer. After the whole Sean incident, I feared that revealing my profession would make him see me differently, so I kept it hidden for a while. Now I am grateful to be in a relationship with someone who accepts me for who I am, and I cherish this newfound happiness.